What's going on, everybody? It has been a crazy couple of weeks in the life of Chris DeBoard, Toolworks, drifting, and all things associated with that. Like some of you know, that we had Fuelfest this last weekend, the 13th, 14th in New Jersey. Great time, great people, great event, great atmosphere, great everything. 10 out of 10. Will recommend and will return for 2025. Even if it may not be New Jersey, depending on where we are. Fuelfest is a fantastic atmosphere. It promotes driver cohesion, properly run events, very friendly staff, and well-informed staff, as well as strict timetabling, scheduling, and structure that everybody knows drifters need, because we're just a bunch of hoodlums who slide sideways and make a lot of smoke and noise. Now, as some of you all know, I attended Drift King Battle USA at Wall Stadium Speedway the weekend prior, 7th and 8th of September. That was what I would consider to be the opposite. I keep looking over here because I have my notes off screen. I want to make sure that I address this properly. So let's rewind a bunch. Spring of this year, I'm getting ready to move from my Maryland compound to my Virginia compound. And I see this event pop up by a guy named Jeffrey Jones, someone I'd never heard of before. Keichi Tsuchiya, DK Tsuchiya-san, is coming to America to judge drifting competition in a top 32 battle. Okay, you have my attention, as Leonardo DiCaprio would say. I start seeing some press. I start doing my research. I'm like, okay, this guy's been, really involved in this, growing this model, building the product. Very impressed with the backstory. Plus, he actually knows a mutual friend of ours, Donald Jackson, DJ Jackson, over at Misawa Japan, owner of Pinku Style, who helped import my R34, someone I've known for 20 years. Okay, the credibility's rolling. Like, let's jump in. All right, buy the driver fee, get my crew passes. Same thing as every event. It's 6 months now before the event. We're already invested in it. We start seeing a little bit of media roll out here and there. Keep the hype going. Okay, stuff's good. I talked to Jeff. He comes and sees me in June, I think it was. He came and visited Maryland International Raceway when we were doing an event for Drift Southern Maryland. I got to ride in the car. We talked extensively. I even did a promo video with him for Drift King Battle USA at Wall that he released later to help promote the event, which, again, a lot of fun. It was a great time. So everything about this is feeling kosher. Message him, have a crew change. He gets back to me, talks to his people. There's information on that, so that the communication is there. Warm and fuzzy. I'm seeing this driver's list. I'm like, okay. I'm seeing guys from California, seeing guys from the Midwest, seeing some heavy hitters from E-Town Gamblers, seeing some heavy hitters from the South. I'm like, all right, this is gonna be, more than 32 drivers, and we're really gonna have our work cut out just to try to get in this top 32 to try to compete in front of the DK himself. So the hype was real. The hype was definitely real. Fast forward to the event. We went up Friday night strictly because it was a 6+ hour drive. I had the toter and the trailer. Dylan, a mechanic, had to meet me at the track. It was just a lot of good reasons that, hey, let's just head up Friday. We get set up and it's like me and 4 other drivers, maybe 5 other drivers show up on Friday night. And originally, there was supposed to be a Gymkhana competition as well in the weekend. And about a month before, they canceled the Gymkhana. The organization running it, Racers and Tuners and Boss Battle, canceled Gymkhana and then said that the money that was set aside for Gymkhana was going to be going towards the car show. I didn't sign up for the Gymkhana. I really don't care what they did with that money. Like, cool, awesome. Hey, communication was good though, so let's roll with that. But when I signed up back in March, April timeframe, there was an option for 2 to 3 hours of drift practice on Friday for like, I think it was actually like 25, 30 bucks. Nothing as far as, how much drifting costs. It was essentially dropping the bucket just to be able to get some early track time, more track time on a track I had only driven on once for one turn, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, so, and then about 2 weeks before the event, so mid-August, I get a refund for my additional pass for early drifting on Friday. So they didn't really make an announcement, but when they refund you the money for something that you paid for, you can kind of understand that it's not going to happen, or you're not going to be participating in it. So got there early Friday for really no reason still, because I wanted to set up. We were doing merch, we were running the booth, and again, this was Wall 2006 was my first Formula Drift US event I'd gone to in my entire life. I went with my dad. We got to meet Ken Gucci and Gucci-san, Ken Gucci's dad, Sharon Dominguez, his PR manager at the time. Got to meet the whole Ford. This was back when Ken Gucci was in an S197 Ford Mustang sponsored by Ford Racing. Red, black, and I mean, again, it was young Chris and young Ken days, early days of me drifting, the first year I'd actually ever been into drifting. So yeah, it was an origin story for me. It was my genesis. I got to go back to the beginning, and now I got to compete on a what I assumed, based on all the stuff, I assumed it was going to be a large stage. There was going to be a lot of promise. There was going to be a lot of media. The hype was real. DK flown in, boom, boom, boom. Everything was fine. They laid the course out. Course for competition. This is very important. Course for competition was 100% infield. For those of you that are not familiar with Wall Stadium is, I believe, a 3/8 mile, possibly 4/10 mile banked oval circuit with, they called it, the gauntlet for a reason. Wall's banks are so intense that, I mean, it sucked cars up into the upper railing every single event that they had at Wall Stadium in Formula Drift. So with that being said, plus they claimed that tire wear was going to be too high if we drifted the bank. They kept the competition solely on the infield for, competitive purposes, I guess. I really never got a straight answer on that. But if you wanted to drift the bank in practice, perfectly awesome. Not a problem. Perfectly fine. And do so at your own risk. So Friday night, we are setting up. We're meeting new friends. Shout out to Chernobyl Drift Crew out in New Jersey, RA Kits. They were more than happy to welcome us into their arms and shared some stuff. Again, really happy to meet them. They are also a key here to be able to bring in later in the story. So day 2, well, I guess day 1 of the event, day 2 for me. We have our drivers meeting. Chris Knapp, Jake Parrish, shout out E-Town, Chris Knapp. Probably one of the most respected individuals on the East Coast of drifting. Runs East Coast Drift School. Runs a lot of stuff when it comes to E-Town, Englishtown Motorsports Park, or Englishtown Raceway Park. I apologize. He's a good dude, and he's very smart. And Dad, Mike, is really smart too. And the family's been involved in racing and motorsports for the better part of half a century. So I see great stuff. Dennis the Menace. They flew in Denizu from the Midwest to be grid worker extraordinaire, flagman, and again, perfect stuff. Driver's meeting goes off without a hitch. It poured immensely Saturday morning, to the point where they had to shut the track down for an hour just to get the blowers, the scrapers, the brushes, everything out to clear out the lakes out of the infield so we could be able to practice online. So we move into DK's first exhibition run. So Tsuchiya-san got to be able to make a couple runs by himself in the Bloodmasters 1 Series. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, it's a 1.5J or 2J powered 135i, great chassis mods, great suspension mods, perfect car. Luke Fink drove this car with the Bloodmasters on the side of it for a couple of gamblers a couple of years ago. The car is proven, case in point. 500 plus horsepower, car is proven. So Tsuchiya-san goes out there, and it looks like it really was his second day in this car. Granted, he just did the day before at E-Town to like try to break it in and all that kind of stuff. So he didn't have a lot of seat time, but for somebody who is the father of drifting, who's been involved in this motorsport for over 3 decades, it was a little piss poor and sad. I may not be in a position to say that. I've only been drifting for 17 years, so I don't have as much experience as him. But I would like to think that what I saw wasn't the DK that I had in my mind. Granted, he's pushing 60, or maybe a couple of years older than that. So he is a pensioner, but I mean, I hate to say it, you got guys like Randy Popes that, still wheels the heck out of a car, and they got an AARP card. So it was just underwhelming, to say the least. Side note to that, I was scrolling through Instagram the same day, and I pulled up some footage that you all can definitely go see on either East Coast Drift School's Instagram or an Instagram related to Englishtown, of Tsuchiya-san taking the same car 24 hours prior around a road course with no helmet and driving gloves and absolutely slaying. I'm talking about laying down heater after heater, full smoke, full lock, full throttle. I mean, some beautiful, beautiful drifting. The DK that we all like to think and know and love. So that also raised my this smells a little fishy, but not like sushi grade fish, like some ammonia. So let's go through it. So now we move to qualifying. So the courses stayed the same. The clipping points, the outer zones, start, finish, everything has been described to us in length through 2 drivers' meetings at this point, and we go to do qualifying. It cooled down significantly for qualifying. We qualified in the early evening under the lights, which was super awesome and nostalgic, especially for myself, getting back into the FD mindset. I spun out. I'm not going to lie. I spun out my first run. I got a well-deserved 0. So I knew my work was cut out for me on the second run. So the second run, I played it very, 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 very conservatively just to be able to put points on the board. I didn't want a double goose egg. So we went and we put out a very, 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 very poor 72. Out of the 17 drivers that were there, I was ranked number 17. And again, I was on the board, and that's really all that mattered to me. I wasn't eliminated from even competing. I hadn't driven all this time, sunk all this money. I was still able to compete. So let's double back a little bit. Do you guys remember that time a couple of seconds ago when I said I was number 17 and I was last? Yeah, so this top 32 battle that was supposedly advertised and promised, and the drivers and this and that, and driver cars and all these people coming, only 17 drivers showed up for competition. There were some other drivers there that showed up for exhibition, and they laid down some really fun exhibition runs, but they didn't have a full cage. So they unfortunately could not compete in tandem competition due to insurance restrictions at this racetrack under their insurance policy. For those of you that don't know, I know 1 or 2 things about insurance when it comes to racetracks with my involvement with a certain racetrack last year. So I'm all on board with that. Hey, it is what it is. We got 17 cars. We're in the show. Cool. That's all that matters. So They do a top 16 bracket. And as you would in a top 16 bracket with 17 drivers, number 16 and number 17 have to battle each other to be able to earn the 16th spot. So I have to win just to be able to be in the show. Cool. No problem. It is what it is. Let's roll with it. So competition day shows up. Drivers meeting. We have the drivers meeting at 10:30, something like that. Chris Knapp does it. We start talking. We figure things out. There's rumors that because there weren't 32 drivers, that the payout could be affected. Now, the payout for this event was a total of $8,500 for top 3 spots. 45, 25, and 15. So you do your math. It is what it is. I was a big proponent of questioning that because if you don't have a full field, and this is what you're promised, it isn't uncommon for the venue or the showrunner to lower the amount that is paid. It's just business practices. If you budget off of X amount of drivers showing up, but X minus 16 shows up, you don't have the extra driver fees to help cover the purse. And it's just common knowledge. It doesn't matter if it's drifting, circle track, dirt track, IMSA, SEC, it doesn't matter. Business is business. You can't create money out of nowhere unless you're the United States Treasury and you just want to print more bills. That's a different thought for a different video. Finally, word comes down before our second drivers meeting, payouts will be paid in full as advertised. Chef's kiss. We're back in the game, buddies. We're battling for over $8,000. Let's get into this. So, second drivers meeting. This is important because this drivers meeting is led by DK Tsuchiya himself with translator, obviously, because none of us in the driver field spoke Japanese. So, during this drivers meeting, we see DK going out and creating a new zone, moving a clipping point or two, moving the finish line a little bit. We've already been practicing for a day and a half on a certain course line. So, I mean, I'm not to say that we were worried, but there was some mental shifts that we had to do as far as, you know, car placement, where we had the car usually, what we'd have to do. Plus, now this is fully tandem. You know, we had a little bit of practice beforehand on the new course. I think it was like an hour, a little bit over an hour. So, awesome, got it. Now we get into the drivers meeting. DK talks about where he wants us, this and that. We're, again, very respectable towards him, appreciate him. He speaks just like you would think a FD Japan judge would. And, you know, everything is very, very, very finite and direct in his expectations. So, we all think we're on the same page. He's also very, very, very accommodating to do a driver's only autograph session afterwards. And he signed my steering wheel on the G35. I took a picture with him. It was a really, really, really big moment for myself because I was like, all right, a lot of things are coming full circle here. Let's focus on competition. Let's rock and roll. So, in that second drivers meeting, we find another driver had driven overnight from Indianapolis to show up, which means he didn't have a qualifying score, which means he actually was lowest on the totem pole with 2 zeros. So, still sticking with the top 16 format, he had to battle me, number 18 and number 17, for the number 17 spot, which I currently held. The winner of that would still battle number 16, and then the winner of that would then get in the top 16. So hopefully you guys are sticking with me. So I had to go up against a gentleman in a BMW Z3 convertible, pretty much stock with a little bit of angle. He only built the car in 6 days. Super admirable for him being there. After the battle, we chatted a good time, and it was nice. But yeah, we went through it. I led, and then I chased. We advanced. Very excited about that. We're going to our G35 versus G35 battle. My comp sedan versus his street coupe. Again, another fine gentleman. No issues there. We pulled to the line and we stage. Now, during the driver's meeting, they instructed qualifying position dictates leader follow, just like in Formula Drift or any other drifting competition. He was seated higher, which means he should lead. He's in the lead lane. I'm in the follow lane. Dennis the Menace drops his hands. We go off. We're parallel. I start to slow down to prep my chase. He slows down. I slow down a little bit more. He slows down. Mind you, we've traveled about 100 feet at this point. And I look over at him, and he looks over at me, and I shout, "You're in the fucking lead!" And he says, "Okay," and then pins it. Mind you, I'm in third at about 1,800 RPMs right now. Even though I had upgraded my diff to be more torque, more wheel speed, I mean, there's only so much you can do. So he shoots off like a rocket, and then now I'm struggling to catch up to get up to wheel speed, and then I have to be able to start initiating to be able to be in drift. So I shallow up a lot of line, a lot of angle, and sacrifice to be able to try to get proximity. It doesn't really happen until you got first outer zone, second or first inner clip. By the second outer zone, I have finally started to gain that proximity. But my line's off, my run's off. I'm in a really weird headspace with frustration and the lead driver not knowing that he was a lead driver, and then now trying to play catch up when it's not my bad driving that put me here. It's strictly him not knowing what the heck he was doing. So, needless to say, it was not a great chase. I can definitely admit to that. So now we flip-flop to the drip drops. I'm in the lead, he's in the chase. I lay down what I thought was possibly one of my best runs that weekend. I had filled all three zones, the fullest I had filled them all weekend. Proximity to all the inner clips at each time was some of the best I had had all weekend. I was so pumped to be able to earn after two back-to-back battles. Mind you, these were, again, back-to-backs. It was not trying to hustle out. And then come to find out when we get back to the pits, I hear over my radio, my spotter says, "Hey, we lost." A lot of you guys know me as a really, really chill, happy-go-lucky, high-energy, super personable guy. In that moment, that was not the case. Unbuckled, full race suit, pants, gloves, everything, ripped my helmet off, my earpiece is dragging on the ground. I start walking to the driver pit stands where I thought DK and the other judge, Chris Knapp, was, because that's where they were for qualifying yesterday. They weren't there, and I'm on the fence. And I look in the stands, the driver stands, and everyone's looking at me, and I yell, "Where the fuck are the judges?" And a couple people point to the main grandstand, and I start walking. One of my good friends is like, "Hey man, I'm coming with you." Don't want to throw him out there who it was, but I appreciate his support, and above all was possibly my voice of reason. Dylan did not go with me because Dylan felt the exact same way I felt, and 2 atom bombs destroyed 2 Japanese cities. We don't need to destroy a Japanese judge. So we're walking towards the booth at a brisk pace. Again, fully suited and booted, going through the spectator area, through the car show, past the DK signing booth. And I'm walking up to the judges stand. I can see Patrick Thomas, Racers and Tuners, and Jeff, Boss Battle Jeff, with DK, his translator, and Chris Knapp. So it was told to us in both drivers' meeting that morning that DK is one judge, and Chris Knapp is going to be the other judge. It is not going to be a 3-judge format like traditional drifting. We're only going to have 2 judges. Puzzling. Not out of the ordinary. Okay, no problem. I go up. I look at Chris dead in the eye. How much to contest? How much to protest the decision? Because usually, in competitive drifting, you pay a fee to protest if you have an issue with whether it be driving or the other person's car, anything like that. It's It's just strictly the way motorsports is. A lot of you guys remember last year when Stuckey protested Denofa over Denofa's hood flapping, and then Stuckey put it in the wall and was out not just to protest money, but also a car. So that's kind of where we were at. I walk up to Chris, say this, hey, how much is the protest? He's like, there's no protest. I'm like, what do you mean there's no protest? This is a competition. There's money up for grabs. I have cash in the trailer. How much is the protest? There's no protest. I say something to the effect, this is fucking bullshit. There's no fucking way I lost that. And you cannot not allow protests when there's over $8,000 on the line. And I'm going to give Chris Knapp all the credit in the world for handling this situation the way he did. Because he said, Chris, I need you to walk away. I need you to go back to the pits. I will talk to you later about this. And when he said that, something clicked. The friend that I will not name was with me. I looked at him, something clicked. And I'm like, all right, I'm talking to you later. And I walked out of there. So shout out to Chris Knapp for diffusing what could have been a very, 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 very disrespectful, unprofessional scene that could have unfolded. So I go back to the pits. Needless to say, the protest failed. I watched the video. The gentleman, there was no angle. There was no speed. He filled no zones. I was essentially, if we're looking me sideways in drift, he was like this instead of like this. So a lot of nose action and then flipping and then more nose action. So it's really easy to have proximity and drifting when you drive in a straight line and the lead driver is driving sideways. So come to find out, he did that against Kylie, who was number one qualifier, and he got eliminated for that run. So that's kind of where the tip of the iceberg is. So I told y'all all this for the last almost half hour to tell you this. So there was a gentleman, I guess the order's out. So Barack in the E36, he never even got a competition timeout, but he broke, and technically he still had one in the bank. He hadn't used his one competition timeout. For those of you that are not familiar, in professional drifting, especially in Formula Drift, you are allowed one competition timeout all weekend to be able to fix your car. It's 5-minute allotment from hands-on car until the car needs to be moving towards the start line. 5 minutes of time to work on your car in your pits. He had broke. He wasn't given it. So he wasn't even able to try to make the battle to be able to go to the finals. So that's already kind of shady. Kylie, number one qualifier, after he had beaten the gentleman that beat me, his car broke. So there was a competitor who also got eliminated, and he's like, hey, Kylie can just drive my car. Let him jump in my car if he wants, and he can continue in competition, because at this point, he's in the grade 8, and he has a 12.5% chance of taking home $4,500. A 33.3 barred percent chance to take home money, period. So, let him jump in the car. Race organizers said no. That's going to be important because we're going to revisit something like that soon. Diego Higa, I don't know if you, those of you that follow drifting know, Diego Higa, winner of Hyperdrive on Netflix, and one of the top drivers coming out of Brazil, Formula Drift Pro driver in the GT86. He was in Chris Forsberg's old Carbon NOS 370Z, 600-something horsepower. He and his crew were going off of the printed schedule. There had been some changes made to the schedule that were not advertised, so they were unaware. So they had the car on jack stands, wheels off, and then somebody goes up to Diego's pits and says, hey, Diego needs to be on the line. Diego's going on right now. The battle's going on right now. And the crew chief looks at him, owner of Shop JDM, is like, hey, we're going. This is the schedule we have. No. His battle's right now. He needs to go to the line or he forfeits. Now, that's that's a tall order because Diego laid down one qualifying run. Let's put that one qualifying run, put it on the trailer, and then went home for the night. That's how. And again, it was a heater of a run. I believe he placed top 5 with that run. So everyone's like, okay, well, we need 3 minutes. We'll throw the tires in the car, get the car down, and we can get. No. He's not ready. Diego forfeits. Diego forfeits because his car wasn't ready because the crew was following the posted schedule, but the schedule changed. And you couldn't allot Diego to maybe even use his competition timeout to put the wheels on the car and get to the line? Cool. So that individual that was supposed to face Diego automatically advances with a bye run. I understand that in drifting, this is another issue. I understand that in drifting, everyone is on a different skill level. And regardless of the platform that they're on, regardless of the skill that they have, the skill in that platform, the power level, whatever you want to say, everything is different. I also know poor drifting when I see it. And there was a 350Z that, again, I won't name the driver or the company that he was mainly sponsored by, but he straightened multiple times in the lead and the chase against a driver who was essentially doing pretty fair, better than the other. Multiple straightens in both lead and chase apparently mean you advance. So he won his battle. The footage is out there, and it's not going to take you guys long to figure out who I'm talking about. So that just blew my mind. Me and Alex Licklater, former Drift Prospect driver, Alex Licklater, good friend of mine, we were in the stands, we were watching the battle, and I was like, Alex, I bet you 10 pesos that 350 is going to advance. And this is after I was all in my feelings. Alex, like, there's no way. Just look at it, there's no way. I'm 10 pesos richer. You guys remember when I said that they wouldn't let Kylie jump in a new car to be able to continue competition? So there's a gentleman with CDC, Chernobyl Drift Crew. I hold him in high regard. I genuinely respect the man. His car broke coming off of the bank and broke an axle. He had a red E46 BMW convertible coupe with a hardtop. There was a car that he loaned that was also a Chernobyl Drift Crew car that was a red E46 four-door with graphics on the side. They looked very similar. So when he won his grade 8 battle, he broke the car. He then used that car in the top 4, but he didn't. He used the 4-door instead of the car that he had started competition in. And because they looked very similar, he was able to fly under the radar. I completely love and respect the CDC guys. I just think it's unfair that race organizers allowed that to happen. Now, in the same point, with him using the wrong car, he was going up against the eventual winner of the event, Nate Chen. Nate Chen used his competition timeout because of a broken, and got his 5 minutes. And then he got 5 more minutes. And then 2 minutes after that, his car was on the line and knocked out Vlad. So he got a competition 12 instead of a competition 5. That's not kosher. That's not kosher at all. Especially when you're talking about the last couple battles to where there's a lot of money up for grabs. I understand this is a long video, but all the judging apparently came down to Tsuchiya-san. He was the sole judge for the event. It was, confirmed that all the judging based on the event was from him. As someone who has been following drifting for 2 decades, been driving for almost that long, I lost a lot of respect for Tsuchiya-san after this event. I turned down a pair of gloves that was supposedly signed by him from one of the event organizers. I still have my steering wheel signed just because that's, that was done and that's on my car. But I heard why he gave some of these runs and why he gave the scores he did. And it's like, it doesn't make sense. At the end of the day, before I even made and am releasing this video, I brought my dissatisfaction and my concerns up with both event organizers. Because I keep all the receipts, one of the individuals out of the 2 that I talked about essentially gaslit me for 4 or 5 paragraphs. Oh, well, you got to be able to drift in front of the DK himself, and you put on a great show, and the fans thought that you put on a great show, and we all thought that you were one of the best drivers out there. At the end of the day, you did your absolute best in front of the Drift King. Don't stroke my dick and tell me that I'm getting something out of this. All right. It's just not working. They're talking about doing a DK event in 2025. I can happily say I have no desire to do that event. I have no desire to participate in any more Racer and Tuner or Boss Battle hosted events, wherever they are in the world, participant or spectator. I'm just genuinely annoyed that when I was hoping for some accountability, that they felt the need to make me think that I need to be feeling grateful for just having this opportunity. I paid my money to be there, okay? I paid for the tires, I paid for the gas, I paid for, my merch, I paid for my crew, I paid for everything. Nothing was given to me. There was no free invite. Everything was paid for. So I don't need to feel grateful for anything. I paid my way to be there, just like all 18 other drivers. I'm doing this to let you guys know of what some of the things that may not get filtered through after certain events, why certain people may not want to be so candid about their emotions and their feelings. If I knew I got beat fair and square and another driver outdrove me, not a single bit of me would be making this video. Swear to God. And I've been outdriven before, and I didn't make videos then. The proof is in the pudding. But at the end of the day, it just needs to be said. So I really appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this video and to commit 40 minutes of your day, midday, or evening to watching this. I look forward to seeing everybody at the next event that I'm at, whether it be driving or spectating. I'm giving out free high fives at every event, which is always a great thing. So make sure to come see me for your free high five. And then we go from there. Keep drifting fun, ladies and gentlemen. Can't stop, won't stop, don't stop, all right?